Hi there, welcome to this special question and answer video. A couple of weeks ago I passed the 1,000 subscriber mark and I asked everybody to send me questions, and in this video I'm going to try and answer as many of them as I can. Now I've split them into two sections. Firstly is the technical questions about camera related stuff, and then secondly I'm going to answer the more personal questions. So if you're just interested in the personal stuff and not the technical stuff, skip to this time code here, and that's where I'm going to start talking about the personal questions. So let's get on with it. I've had a question from Steve Verity Photography, and he says, do I fine tune my lenses? Now the answer to that is sort of. It's a yes and no. Now if I do fine tune them, I do send them away to be calibrated properly. I have tried it myself without a great deal of success. But this ties in with another question that I've had from Ken Powell, and he says, what piece of equipment do you have that is not very useful? Now I bought myself this, and it comes with this. It's a kit for calibrating your own lenses. Now it's not that the kit itself is useless, it's just that I don't really know how to use it properly. So for me it's one of those pieces of a kit that sits in a cupboard and never gets used. Now I also mentioned in a previous video this L bracket that I bought for my Z6 II that I did buy cheaply, in fairness, but it was pretty useless because it was a universal one. It didn't really fit the camera properly. You couldn't access all of the battery compartment. You couldn't change the FTZ adapter when it was on, so it was a complete waste of time. And also up in the loft I've got a gold post frame system for hanging backcloths off. I did at one point intend doing studio photography and just never got into it, and so that sits up in the loft gathering dust as well. Next I have a question from Alan Dearson. He says, I have the Nikon D500 with a 150-600 lens. I've had problems focusing on flying birds when there's not a background, not sky. I'm using group focusing points. What focus points do you use for birds in flight? Now I will say from the outset that I'm not an expert by any means in bird in flight, but I have done some. Now when I've done birds in flight before, I have used a single focus point. This picture here of this puffin was taken in the Farne Islands, and I used one focus point to track it, and so I was more precise with the area that was in focus. Now that would be my advice. Go and check out some other wildlife photographers on YouTube. I particularly like Paul Miguel, so go and check him out. I'll put a link to his channel in the description down below. I've had two questions from Malcolm Toyer, but I'm going to answer both of them. He says, when did you get into photography, or have you always been into it? Good question, Malcolm. I haven't always been into photography. I've probably always had a camera, but it was point and shoots to begin with, and it was just for taking photographs of family events and that kind of usual stuff. But when digital started to become more prevalent, I had my first digital camera in the early 2000s, and that's when I really started to get into photography properly. I could be more creative because of the instant feedback you got from the picture on the back of the camera, and you didn't feel like you were wasting film, and so it really opened up the world of photography for me. And then that developed as I started to become more interested in the artistic side. And then I joined a camera club in about 2012, and that really changed my photography. It exposed me to much more variety of possibilities and ideas, and that really changed the way that I take photographs. Secondly, Malcolm asks, do I enjoy wildlife photography or landscape photography more? Now this is a very difficult question, and I'd give different answers on different days. Wildlife photography does really give an exciting reward. When a bird or a creature turns up and poses for you, there's a buzz that you get from that, because you can't predict when something's going to happen. But that's the downside as well. You could be sitting for hours waiting for a bird to appear and just land in the right spot and pose in the right place, and then hopefully you've got the right lighting conditions at the time. So it can be really frustrating. Landscape photography, on the other hand, if you know there is a landscape, you can go straight to it and take the photo, assuming that you've got the right lighting conditions. Nothing's moving, all that's changing is the light, and so it can be less frustrating. But because it doesn't have that challenge quite the same as wildlife photography, I think I would say that I enjoy the wildlife slightly more, despite it being more frustrating. Next, I have a question from Joe Margits. He asks, what do I do for a living when I'm not taking photographs? Now, I am a fully qualified primary school teacher, and from 1994 until 2.5 years ago, I worked in primary schools teaching 9 to 11-year-olds. Now, 2.5 years ago, I left that to start my own business as a personal tutor. I find it really rewarding working for myself. I'm still teaching, but doing it on a smaller scale. But because I work mainly in the evenings, it's opened up my daytimes for photography. So that's how I've been able to develop the channel. Next, I have a question from Saptic, who asked a question linked to the last one. Maybe this person knows me from outside YouTube, but they ask, do I enjoy teaching? And the short answer is yes. I loved my time as a primary school teacher. I really enjoy being a private tutor now. And whenever I can, I try and inject some of that teaching style into my YouTube videos to try and help everybody that watches, and sometimes even do tutorial videos to try and help people. So I hope that comes across, and I hope people find it beneficial. Now, Saptic has also sneaked in a second question, and he says, what editing software do I use? Now, back in the early 2000s, when I started digital photography, almost at the same time, I found a magazine with a cover disc that had a free version of Photoshop. And ever since, I've developed my skills in Photoshop either through reading books or from cover discs from magazines. And I've got to a point where I think I'm fairly proficient in it. And I've done lots and lots of digital manipulations. Here's an example of one that's done very well for me. But I have got to the point where I don't do as much of this anymore. Most images that I take will have some kind of Photoshop work done on them, maybe just increasing the levels or just balancing them out better, because most images will benefit from some kind of editing, but I tend not to do anywhere near as much anymore. It's just mainly just tweaking the levels and pulling the most out of a raw file. Next, I've had a comment from Thomas Stafford, who's an ex-pupil of mine. Now, he says, what's it like to have 1,000 subscribers? And to be honest, it's absolutely mind-blowing. I never expected to get to this stage when I started the channel, and I get lots and lots of really, really lovely comments from subscribers saying how much they enjoy my content, and that is just really, really great for me. I can't believe that people take time to watch my videos and then also take time to comment in such lovely ways, so thank you to everybody. The next question comes from Spencer4E, and he asked me what inspired me to start a YouTube channel. Now, this goes way back to the beginning of 2019 when I'd just come back from a trip to Iceland. And the trip really inspired me to get taking photos again, because I'd got into a habit of just not really going out and not doing very much photography. So I thought that a YouTube channel would be a perfect excuse to get me out of the house and start taking photos again. But what I didn't realise is how much I'd actually enjoy the YouTube side of it as well. And I'm somebody that really likes a bit of a challenge. And so learning how to vlog and edit has been a real challenge. I think I'm getting better. From what people tell me, people seem to enjoy it. But I know I've still got lots of room to improve, and so that's what I want to do next. Rich has sent me a couple of questions. He says he's only just discovered my videos and he's glad he did. Some awesome production and quality, as well as some amazing pictures. Rich, stop it. But he also asks, what is my favourite bird, either to photograph or just to see? Firstly, I've got to say, top of the list is the kingfisher. I did some amazing videos this summer of the kingfisher down at the Hyde, very local to where I live, and it's just a spectacular bird to see. But I did also take some pictures of puffins in the Farne Islands, and they were really special as well. So those are probably my top 2 that I've seen so far. Now, Rich did also ask, what is my fondest memory of wildlife photography? Now, I've kind of answered that already with the puffins and the kingfisher, so I'll kind of twist the question to be landscape photography. And I have 3 that stand out in my memory. The first is when I was in North Yorkshire, just outside Whitby in a place called Saltwick Bay, and I got the most amazing sunrise. I remember standing on the beach and literally whooping. It was like, yes, whoa, whoa, because the sunrise was just so amazing. So that's number 1 on my list. Second, the probably equal is when I was in Iceland. Now, there was lots and lots of moments in Iceland, but there was one particular one where we went behind a waterfall that was, all the ground was frozen. It was very precarious to get there, but when we stood behind the waterfall looking down the valley, that was another fist pumping moment that was just out of this world. And the final one was when I was lucky enough to go to China, to a place called Zhangjiajie National Park. And for those people who are not familiar with it, it was where the movie Avatar was based or inspired from. There's pinnacles of rock sticking up out of the ground that are hundreds of feet high with trees growing on the top, and it was just the most spectacular place. So those 3 are in my top favourite landscapes that I've taken during my photography career. I did say that I would choose a winning question and give away a print, and that question comes from Gary, and he said, where do you think you'll be in 10 years? Now, I can't answer that question. In 10 years time I'll nearly be 60. I know that I'll still be taking photographs, that's without question. Hopefully the channel will still be going, and who knows where the channel will be in 10 years time. It could go in all kinds of directions. I'd love it if the channel continued to grow, and I might even be able to do more tutorials and more, maybe even some workshops in the future, but that's pie in the sky kind of stuff. For the moment, I'm just happy for the channel to carry on going in the way that it is. I hope you found that question and answer session really interesting. I've tried my best to answer as many as possible. Look forward to another one, maybe at 2,000 subscribers, who knows. Next week I've got a special video that I filmed in the Hyde taking photographs of birds in the snow, and that's turned out really well. I've got some really special pictures, so that'll be a great one to look forward to. So that'll be out on the channel next Sunday at 4 o'clock. Don't forget to click like, subscribe and the bell notifications as always, but for now, stay safe, have a great new year, and I'll see you soon. And then second, I'm going to answer Paul Miguel photography when I'm not taking photographs. Oh God, I'm about to burp. I am a I worked in a primary school teacher. But I've got to a point where I really enjoyed the pigtail photo bombing cats.